So, a child whom I know, or who I know, anyway, who will remain nameless, but who I do know quite well, was in touch with me the other day saying that he was going to be marked absent in one of his classes because he and a friend left literally 2 minutes early to go to lunch because the cafeteria is on the other side of campus. And if they don't leave early, they knew if they didn't leave early, they knew they wouldn't get there in time to get some pizza. And class was done. They were just standing at the door waiting to be able to leave. Um, I thought this was like sort of an interesting dilemma on the part of the teacher and an interesting situation. Anyway, this particular child was sent to the next day to the vice principal's office. The vice principal thought it was a bit silly and basically said, well, don't leave early from class. Why am I sharing this story? I am sharing this story because I also think it's kind of silly. I mean, I know there are rules and everything, but why is it silly? What is so frustrating to the children about these kind of rules? And I think we do this as parents all the time, not just as teachers in institutions where it's harder to be flexible, but as parents in our own family institutions where it's a lot easier to be flexible. So I want to throw out this idea that consistency actually doesn't work. I don't really think it works. And I don't think it works for a couple reasons. One of the reasons that I don't think it works is because it doesn't allow us to consider the moment, right? It doesn't allow us to consider that this particular situation has never happened before. Even, maybe in that story that I told you, maybe this isn't the first time that they've finished early, but maybe the confluence of finishing early, feeling bold enough and motivated enough to get to the front of the cafeteria line, and pizza being served for lunch, like, all happened on the same day. I don't know. But in any case, it never happened before. And why not? Like, what's so wrong about getting in line for pizza? I mean, I get their rules. Let's take a different example because it's harder in these big institutions. Let's just take an example in our house. Okay, let's just say it's bedtime, and bedtime is 8 o'clock. But the thing is as a family, you're watching this really sweet movie, and there are about 15 minutes left. And truth be told, you don't even really want to stop watching the movie, but it is 8 o'clock, and that is the rule. And we need to be consistent about bedtime. So, you strong arm it and you hold that limit around bedtime, and your kid's upset, and it's hard to hold that limit, and it's hard for you to keep patience because you actually don't really care. In fact, you would prefer to be watching the end of it as well. So, it's frustrating. It's hard when you can't actually consider the moment, and I think that's something that we need to take seriously. Um, the the sort of side effect of that is that our kids see that we're not considering the moment, right? Our kids see that we're just being sticklers for the rules. And even older kids, like the unnamed one who I described, get annoyed when people are just sticklers for the rules when there's no logic behind those rules. And I'm betting that even you get frustrated when there are rules that abound that don't feel like they're really grounded in the reality of the moment. So, if we want to get buy in from our kids, we want to kind of lean more towards flexibility in our limit setting and our rule setting rather than consistency. In other words, this is the rule, and so this is what it's going to be no matter what. Um, Consistency also isn't always a very smart strategy. One, because life isn't consistent. I mean, it's not static. It changes all the time, and we have no idea what the next moment's going to bring. I mean, never mind the next day, week, month, and year, right? I think there's nothing more apparent than the last couple of years in the pandemic. The political outbreaks around the globe. There's been so much going on. The Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, things change, life changes, and we get to flex with that. We don't have to stay rigid in our own ways. I think it's actually an opportunity that we get to flex. And I think flexibility is one of the best gifts that we can offer our children. And that means modeling it ourselves, right? This is not something where we can ask them to learn to be flexible without us modeling it in the way that we parent them. It also, it shows kids that we're considering them, that we see them as full human beings, not just, little less thans. And, so if a child wants a second serving of cake or whatever, and it's the weekend and you're at a birthday party at a park, maybe you can say yes. Whereas if it were a weeknight and you knew that sugar was going to rile them up and they needed to get to bed to get up early for school the next morning, maybe that would make sense to hold a limit. But every situation is different. So to take that moment to think about it and decide, can I let the second piece of cake go? Or even can I be happy and excited about offering them a second piece of cake? That's a great thing to be able to consider. And the other thing about being flexible is that it allows us to be more true to our own parenting values. A lot of times, one of the places that I see a lot of you struggle with limit setting is that you're setting limits from a place of shoulds, right? So, like, I think I should do that. I mean, kids, X age are supposed to go to sleep at X hour, or kids who do, Y are supposed to have Z happen to them, or well, that's what the neighbors are doing, or that's what the teacher said, or that's what my parents said I should be doing when this happens. And it's hard to hold limits successfully because our kids don't necessarily love the limits that we're going to set for them. So when we do decide, okay, a limit is in order here, we need to be prepared for them to be less than pleased with that. It's hard to be less than pleased when we feel like we're not being true to ourselves. So being flexible allows you to be truer to your own unique parenting values. And it also prepares kids for life. Because, like I said, life is, well, it's a lot of things, but I don't think it's consistent. Something different happens every single moment. And just when you think you got it all figured out, something else happens. I hope this is helpful. If it is, please subscribe to my channel. I do my very best to get videos out almost every Tuesday. And I hope they inspire you and give you a little something to go home and try. Bye for now.